Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about organizational behavior. So, this is a little bit of a psychology class today. So, first of all, let's talk about what organizational culture is. So, this is the collection of values, expectations, practices, all the things that kind of guide and inform the actions of team members and the people working together. Um, Not all environments do well. And there are places like if you're working somewhere and you're like, something feels off, it's usually because the culture isn't good. And these are the 5 stages of decline. Okay. So a company comes out and they're like, they're hubris born of success. Like something happens and they do really great. Like maybe we get some really great sales or we start booming and we're like, the company's just doing well. Okay. And we're like, we're so great. We can do anything. And then after that, we're like, we need more. And everybody needs to have what we have. And we pursue it, pursue it, pursue it. And then things happen and we deny it. And we're like, well, these setbacks are just temporary. We can just ignore them. We can just ignore them. And then things keep falling apart and we're just looking for any sort of salvation. It's like, this is a magic bullet solution. Okay, if we could just get this product, if we could just bring this person on, if we could just do this, like, then we'll get back. And then you have the death of a company, which is sold, shriveled into insignificant bankruptcy. Okay, here's some common areas that often need cultural change. So, one is just the people, maybe a mindset, an attitude, maybe performance. Maybe there's an underperformer that's really dragging everybody down, or somebody who's really negative. Sometimes our technology, like we need to automate something, we need to upgrade something, we need technology, we need to put the robots to work. Okay. Maybe strategy. We've got to look at any adjustments that maybe are economic or social. You know, we get this new trend for like vegan food, and then we like need to respond to that, right? Or maybe there's political shifts. Like right now, we have major political shifts, and those are things that can really affect the culture of a company. Like people get worried about those things. Um, and then structure. Like maybe we need to change up the hierarchy. Like maybe we're getting a little bit too horizontal and not flat enough. And we need to empower people to make more decisions. Maybe things are not being as efficient as they can be. Or maybe there's some like psychological effects of the space and structure. Like maybe we're in a building that doesn't have enough sunshine, or we're just like cooped up, or like the cubes are just like a maze. And it would be so nice if things felt a little bit more open or cheerful. Companies in culture, we can also have diversity issues. And that's because everybody is different, and companies are going to have a lot of different kinds of diversity. So remember, it can be everything from race to gender to age to socioeconomic statuses to marital statuses. Um, Lots of different things that make us very diverse. Where we grew up, the religions we grew up with, the culture. There's a lot of things that can make us really diverse, which is great because we bring those things together and we get further than we ever would have. But they can also create some issues. So some of the things we have to be careful with in our culture is to be transparent and honest, like with what the issues are. Like maybe like I'll tell you, like where I work, I am the youngest person in our department by far. Okay. Everybody else is quite a bit older. And so sometimes we have some generational issues, and, I get made fun of for being a millennial, but it is what it is. Then we can sometimes we have to evaluate policies and procedures for equity issues. Like sometimes there are things that we just didn't realize were being unfair to a certain group of people. And so we have to look at those really carefully. And we evaluate wording for communication and biases. Like in the past, you used to be able to write a handbook and you could use the word men to refer to all people. You can't do that now, right? It needs to say men and women or just say they. And like those are things that matter to us. So we have to look at those. Also, microaggressions, we have to identify them and address them. Don't just brush them off. If somebody I mean, especially if they don't know. So here's the thing: when we feel like we are the target of microaggressions, or even to the point of discrimination, okay, it is up to us to say something, to say this is not. I'm not okay being treated this way. I think I'm getting more work put on me. Um, because I'm single and don't have a family, and so I get more work put on me, and that's not fair. Or I think you guys are mad at me about this, and so I got this retribution or whatever. Okay, so like you identify it and you tell them and you say, hey, I think I'm being mistreated unfairly because of this, this, and this. It is our job to tell other people how they can and cannot treat us. It is then up to them to take that feedback and improve it. So when we say, oh, people should know that they're being aggressive or that they're making, inappropriate comments. And the truth is they probably don't know that they're doing that or that hurt your feelings. But it's up to them, or if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, that really hurt my feelings, your job is to take that feedback and try and improve. Okay, so that's how that works. And then we also want to create solutions to have a very inclusive environment. Okay, so here's some steps to positive change. 1, recognition, right? Recognize the problem and what opportunities do we have. Then together, we're going to design a decision. Then we're going to gain allies, because a lot of times we need support. And who are some of those key leaders or key people who can really make sure that this happens? Then we need to communicate a vision, like what do we really want? Where are we going to go? Then we can expect and overcome resistance, because of course somebody is going to resist. They're not going to take that feedback. They're not going to want to change how they've done something. Even if it's something like a new technology change, and that's going to really make things better for your culture and your department, people are still but the other software did this and this, or but I got used to this, right? So there's always some resistance. Expect it and overcome it, and then just reward the progress and say, look how good we've done and how far we've come, and be positive. Okay, so here's just some definitions for you guys to know, and these are just structural characteristics. So 1 is accountability, which is just the report and justification of work and results. I will just tell you guys now, track everything you do. If there's no documentation that you did it, if there's no proof you did it, you didn't do it. Okay, so document your work, be accountable for it. Then there's responsibility. That's the obligation to perform an assigned task. We have authority. That's the power to make decisions, give orders, and use resources. Authority is not the same as leadership. Okay. Then we have division of labor. This is a term I'll show you guys in a minute. It's really important. It's a big deal in our modern society and a keystone of capitalism. Okay, so it's assigning work into specializations to create greater efficiency, and you will absolutely need to know that for the final. Okay, greater efficiency, division of labor. So we divvy up the work. Then we have span of control, and that's just the number of people who report to particular managers. So your span of control might be 2 people, it might be 500 people. Okay. Then delegation, that's where we assign work out to people. There's centralized authority. That's where important decisions are made by high-level managers. Think back where we talked about those pyramid of managers in the manager and leadership module. It's made at the top. It's a vertical, tall hierarchy. Or there's decentralized authority, where decisions are made at all levels of the organization, and that might be more flat or horizontal. Okay, so division of labor, super important. Check out this video if you need to learn more about it. Okay, here's some common structures. So 1 is functional structure, and that's where we group by occupational specialties. So think about we're in a big company, and there might be an accounting department, a marketing department, faculty, that sort of thing, okay? Or we might have a divisional structure where we're going to group by purpose. So think about maybe at a restaurant, we're going to divide up a waiter has a different purpose than a host, who has a different purpose than the chef, okay? So they're going to be divided up into that kind of structure. Then we can have a hybrid structure where they're both functional and divisional. So you might have in a large company, there might be a Eastern division and a Western division, and you might have accountants in both of those. Then we've got a matrix structure where it's vertical and horizontal command structures, and it's in a grid, and it's where you have both a division and a function, and you'll have 2 different managers. So, and companies can do whatever the heck they want, truthfully. You can divide labor up however you want, but these are just common structures. Okay, we also have virtual organizations, or the definition of this book. It's just a networked entity that is extremely flexible. The core company can outsource various processes or functions to outside companies, any one of which can be changed when necessary. So I don't know why they call it a virtual organization, because you would think that was one that didn't have a specific location, that everybody was remote working, but that's not what this book is talking about. It's talking more about a network organization, or you can think about this as a company that relies like 100% on contracting out work. And that would be this kind of organization. Okay, so we're going to talk about building a team. Why build a team? Why work with other people? Gosh, we're so difficult, right? One, it increases productivity. We can do things faster. We can do things cheaper together. We have better quality when there's more than one person. We can also reduce destructive internal competition. Like it can be good to have like some positive competition where we're like trying to do better because we have someone to compete against. But you know when it gets to the point where it's like hurtful or taking things down or taking things too far. And then we can also have things that are more cohesive. And then people are actually absent less when they're in a team than when they're on their own. Okay, let's talk about motivation. So that's a psychological process that inspires people's goal-directed behavior. And there's a really cool thing called the Enneagram, and it's a personality, not quiz. Like, I mean, you can take a quiz, but there's a personality spectrum analyses. And it's all based on people's motivation, and that's how you figure out what kind of personality you have and learn more about yourself based on your motivation. So some people are motivated by the need to achieve, that's me. Some by the need to make peace. Some by not looking the fool, that's one of my little girls. Could also be by the need to not feel pain, like you do everything fun and you won't stop doing what's fun until something's like painful to you, like not fun. So anyway, check that out for motivation. It's really cool. And then let's talk about some motivational theories. So first of all, there's internal and external motivators. So extrinsic or external motivators are things like money, pay raises, promotions, like outside you, right? And then internal are things inside you, such as like that feeling of accomplishment, that sense of purpose, like I reached my goal, that self-actualization that you got somewhere, that's going to be internal motivator. Like I need to do this for me. I need to do this because it's what's important for my family. It's not because I'm going to get praise and reward and money. Neither one is wrong. Like however you're motivated is how you're motivated, okay? Okay, so let's talk about the motivational theories. So the first one is the Hawthorne effect, and this is where employees work harder because they get attention. And the way the researchers did this study is really funny. So what they did, and you have to think about the ethics, okay, of like messing with people in the workplace, and you should know that you have to be really careful like with your messing with people, right? So what they did is they would change the environment a little bit, like a plant would show up, or they would dim the lights, or they would increase the lighting, or things like that. And they would just make a subtle change, but like enough that people noticed. And anytime they made any change, positive or negative, like people worked harder. Like they just did. It wasn't until they like literally couldn't see, like they had no light at all, that people didn't work harder. Like kind of funny. Okay, then we've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is where people are motivated by 5 different levels, and it ranges from low to high. And you can see this little pyramid on the bottom, and you kind of have to have the level below it before you can get to the top. And everybody wants to be at self-actualization, where you've got a lot of self-esteem, where you're like being the best you. But you can't do that if your housing is insecure, if your food insecure, if you don't feel like you belong. Like none of those things can be there. And so this is this idea of like motivated by these 5 different levels. Then we've got Herzberg's 2 factors. And so we've got motivating factors like achievement and recognition, and then hygiene factors such as pay and good working conditions. So you have to have both. So you can't like just get all this achievement without money. Like who's going to work there, right? You need both to motivate you. Okay, the next motivational theory we're going to talk about is McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. And this is how the manager perceives their employees. So does the manager think that their employees are like inherently irresponsible, lack ambition, slackers? Or do they think that their employees are capable of self-direction and accepting responsibility? And that viewpoint really affects motivation. Like if I have a manager that comes in and they're like, well, I just think you guys all suck. You guys need to be like, I have to tell you how to do everything and I've got to ride you on this and blah, blah, blah. Like, and I can tell that they just like don't think the best of anybody. like it's not very motivating. I don't want to work hard for them, but if somebody's like, oh gosh, I just know you guys are awesome, like it makes you want to work harder. By the way, I know you guys are awesome. Okay, Vroom's expectancy theory. This is where people are motivated by how strongly they want something and think they can actually get it. So it's like if that promotion, you're like, I'll never be able to get it, you're not motivated by that. But if you're like, oh, that's achievable, I can get that, then you'll achieve that. It also goes into this idea of like what people expect we can do, we can do. So if I'm expected to like meet goals and do a good job, I will. If I'm like expected to be a slacker or horrible, like kind of will as well. Okay. You can see how all these tie in together, right? Okay, then there's Adams equity theory, and this is the employee's perception of how fairly they are being treated, and that affects their motivation. So, like, let's say somebody comes in late all the time, and then you come in late and you get written up and you're in big trouble, and you're like, what the heck? Because the other person's late all the time, they're never in trouble. That's unfair. And it really is demotivating. And you're like, I'm not going to work as hard, right? But like maybe there's a real reason. Like maybe that person isn't late all the time. Maybe you just don't know their schedule or they have an accommodation. Like who knows? But it's about the perception of reality rather than reality, the perception of fairness. Okay, then we got Locke and Latham's goal-setting theory. This is the idea that employees are motivated by setting challenging but achievable goals. So you set goals with your employees, and then they're motivated to achieve them. So you guys should look at this and think about like what motivates you, internal, external, any of these motivational theories kind of like stand out to you, ring true. That for us is our organizational behavior.